Boom, 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 boom. Here we go. This week's reading. Oh, I always forget about my volumes. Always forget about my volume. There we go. There we go. Audio's good. Video's good. Let's get into it. We're reading from Hope on the Tightrope. I was looking for CDs in my CD bin. I wanted to get the name of a CD by Jimi Hendrix so I can look for it. And I found Hope on the Tightrope. Figure Cornel West is running for president. You can't go wrong with West. It's a nice read. It's a good book. Let's go. I was looking for the sections I would want to read, and I figured we need to start with State of Emergency, Chapter 1, because we are in a state of emergency. So let's start there. We are now in one of the most truly prophetic moments in the history of America. The poor and very poor are sleeping with self-destruction. The working and middle classes are struggling against paralyzing pessimism, and the privileged are swinging between cynicism and hedonism. Yes, these are the circumstances that people of conscience must operate under during this moment of national truth and consequences. I would say the wealthy, they're hedonistic. We're past. Remember, this book is kind of old, so we're deep in it. Back to the reading. We have witnessed the breakdown of the social systems that nurture our children, our rootless children, not just the 1 out of 3 black, 1 out of 4 brown, and nearly 1 out of 3 red children who live in poverty, but the 1 out of 5 children in America who live in poverty. We are talking about the state of young souls, culturally naked with no safe moorings. These children have no cultural armor to protect them while navigating the terrors and traumas of daily life. Young people need a community to sustain them so that they can look death in the face and deal with disease, dread, and despair. These days, we are in deep trouble. We cut child poverty in half in 2020. We cut all poverty down. We really kind of eliminated poverty because we were giving away stimulus checks, unemployment checks, UBI through other forms, and child tax credit. And Joe Biden took all of that back, let it all expire, and plunged children back into poverty. Any society that can do something right and then go back to doing it wrong, or can do something constructive and then let it slip back into destruction and not even be upset about it, we're gone. I don't know what to say. The audacity of hope won the 2008 Democratic primary, and we are still living in the shadow of the vicious realignment of the American electorate. Provoked by the media's negative appeals to race and gender and the right-wing propaganda that bashes vulnerable groups. The effects of the U.S.'s economic contraction that began in 1973 have only intensified in the new global economy. Even as deep democratic struggles began in the mid-1990s in response to corporately controlled globalization, we face an unprecedented redistribution of wealth from working people to the elite, and the gutting of the nation into public squalor and private opulence. We're there. Everything this book talked about, we're there already. And I don't think people are even interested. I know black people aren't interested in doing anything. I mean, actually doing anything socially or political. I really believe that most black people are just giving up. They're just going about their daily business until their last day. It's a sad, sad state. Culture and power provides people with the tools and resources to steel themselves against adversity and convinces them not to kill themselves or others. This is the reason why I am preoccupied with a sense of tragicomic. At the moment, in which we must look defeat, disillusionment, and discouragement in the face and work through it, a sense of tragicomic, keeps alive some sense of possibility, some sense of hope, some sense of agency, some sense of resistance. We have not been too successful in persuading people not to kill themselves or others, from the police homicide of Sean Bell in New York City to the torture and prisoner abuse at Abu Ghraib in Iraq. From street thugs to corporate thugs, people of color, women, youth, working poor, gays, and lesbians are being targeted. I call it the gangsterization of America. We've had so many killings since Sean Bell. People don't even remember Sean Bell. Horrific killings in real time, photographed in our faces. So we're done. And the person who killed, what is the police officer? Chauvin, the police officer Chauvin, who killed, oh my God, I'm having a brain fart. But you know who I'm talking about, who kneeled on the neck of our brother. The officer is in prison and has been stabbed because he revealed and showed in the training manual where kneeling on a person's neck is in the manual. Remember, Chauvin was training other people to do this. So George Floyd, that's who he killed. So when he was kneeling on George Floyd's neck, that was his training. And he's revealing that. That's part of his appeal. And somebody stabbed him in prison. So see, when I tell you, when I say, and those of us who say, look, the police are doing their job, you keep saying they need more training. Dumb, empty-headed black politicians keep saying they need more training. The training is to choke us and kill us. That's the training. It's been the training since they've started. It's been the training since the posses. It's been the training since slave catchers. It's been the training since overseer days. It's still the same training. Let's go back to reading. This is what happens in moments of cultural decay. This is what happens in moments of cultural breakdown. Moreover, to talk about cultural resistance at this time means to ask, how do we analyze this present moment and discern some sources of division and hope, of vision and hope? I look at culture from the vantage point of a black freedom fighter. We're not going to be here long. Culture moves us. It helps create the structure of meaning, feeling, and purpose that keep the deep democratic tradition alive. It's a little better, I guess. Remember, since the 90s, I know black culture has just been cream, cash. Cash rules everything. That seems to be our only culture. People say they believe in other things, but really, when you see a black, they're gonna ask you, "What are you doing? How much are you making?" That's it. As bad as things are, we have faced worse conditions. We have always had courageous people willing to stand up and tell the truth, expose lies, and bear witness to love and justice. We will have people who say they are willing to build on this tradition. As our society faces deeper and deeper crises, progressives are beginning to be heard again. People are looking to a variety of different voices and visions for leadership and direction about how we can overcome these situations. For too long, Americans look to the right. We have looked to neocons, Republicans, Reagan, Bush, and Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld. They have pulled us deeper into a dark, bottomless pit. Yet, if people are interested in looking somewhere else, progressive possibilities are reemerging. This is all before the Bernie Sanders movement, this book. So you have to realize that. Back to the book. Such progressive formations have been the history of black folk. There was slavery, then there was a constitution that never used the word but counted black bodies as 3/5 of a man. While America was celebrating its liberty, 20% of the inhabitants of the 13 colonies were enslaved. It's a lot of people, 20% of your population. In 1829, you had abolitionist David Walker saying that America will eventually have to deal with its white supremacist slavery. It will end up a house divided against itself, split down the middle with war and bloodshed. He predicted right. Back to the book. They said he was crazy. He was dead 11 months after he published The Great Walker's Appeal. 30-some years later, his prophecy came to fruition. America had to come to terms with his white supremacy in the face of major catastrophe and war. Let's read this one. The Union won the war. White supremacy won the peace. After the Compromise of 1877, which ended Southern Reconstruction and began the era of Jim and Jane Crow. It was here we go again, from Frederick Douglass to Martin Luther King Jr. Sooner or later, just as you had to break the back of white supremacist slavery to save democracy, you will have to break the back of American apartheid or lose your democracy. I don't know why they keep using that term, that concept. I've never been in a democracy. I've never had my word or my ideas or my anything count in this society. We are still, to white liberals, 4/5 human, to white conservatives, 3/5 human, and black people treat each other like 2/5 human. In the 60s, while black youth were being hosed down in the streets, black folk came to the rescue again. Dr. King and civil rights activists like Fannie Lou Hamer and Robert Parris Moses helped save democracy in America. There was the hypocrisy of America talking about freedom while oppressing black folk and noting that the Soviet Union had no freedom because it repressed and subjugated its citizens. Black folk came to the rescue. And we'll read the rest on Wednesday. Hope on a Tightrope. That's what we all are. Well, I think the tightrope is gone. We're just in a very bad situation. We're basically in what I call the purge type of society. People are stabbing each other to death, shooting each other, beating each other. It's awful. And every time I walk out the door, I don't know if I'm going to come back in one piece. And it doesn't even matter. That's the sad reality for so many of us. So, Hope on the Tightrope. If you want to support directly, hit the links, or become a sponsor. Until next time, take care of yourselves and please try to keep safe.